Hey there, fantasy owners. LTC Fantasy here. Not sure if you're chiming in watching via YouTube or listening via podcast, but really do appreciate the watch or listen no matter how you're streaming the episode. Before we get started, want to mention we do have a new partnership with 247clash.com. Their link is in the description there. And it's a player versus player fantasy game that's basically made winnable for anyone. It's pretty easy and fun to play. If you do go to the website www.247clash.com, you'll see a link at the top of the homepage on how to play. Explains the game a little bit. And if you do decide to sign up and make a deposit, please use referral code LTC. Start winning some cash, and it also helps support the show a little bit there. Do note it is for Canadian residents only at this time. That might change in the future as it starts to grow too, and hopefully you win some cash. I've made a little bit so far, and hopefully you can too there. So today's our Week 15 midweek waiver wire episodes. We're going to look at some lower ownership goalies, defensemen, and forwards that are either on hot streaks or gaining some opportunity due to injuries. Hopefully strengthen your fantasy roster, not only for this week, but some future weeks as well. Get a little bit of runway out of them. And we'll basically get right into it. Some goalies to look at. First one is Phoenix Copley from LA there, owned in 54% of Yahoo leagues. Since coming up, he has 12 wins and 14 starts, only a 2.59 GAA. All he really does is win, and he's really taken over that crease in LA, so I would grab him if you are in need of a goalie for sure, and hopefully he's still available in your league. Another one to look at is Anton Forsberg over in Ottawa there, owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues. He started 5 of the last 7 games. He's won 3 of the 5, so he's over 500 there. The last one was a stinker, but the other one's been okay, so he might be an okay option for you there. And the last one is Philip Gustafsson from Minnesota there, owned in 46% of Yahoo leagues. He started 6 of the last 11 games, so basically alternating starts. He won 4 of those 6 starts and 2 or less goals in 5 of those 6 starts. So he is playing well. He's worked his way into a tandem situation with Fleury. So if you're in need of that third goaltending option, that's where he might provide some depth for you. Before we do get into defensemen, do want to ask you, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel as we're trying to grow it. Hopefully you're getting some value out of these episodes, and hopefully it's working for you in your fantasy leagues there. That's my little plug, and we'll get into some defensemen now. First one off the list is from the Rangers. Look at Keandre Miller, owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the second pairing, second power play unit there, and he has 9 points in the midst of a 7-game point streak. 3 of those points being on the power play, 14 shots on goal and 12 hits in there. So he's been really good of late, and you should definitely grab him if available. He's going to provide some pretty solid depth for you. Next one is over in Seattle. Look at Justin Schultz, owned in only 19% of Yahoo leagues. He plays on the second pairing. Up on the top power play unit, he seems to switch with Dunn between second power play, top power play, so he could be back and forth. Either way, he will get power play time. He has 6 points his last 8 games, and in those 8 games, he's also a +6. Also had 9 blocks in there, which normally doesn't block a lot of shots. So his offense is kind of hot and cold, but he could be an okay depth piece, especially in deeper scoring formats there. Next one's over in Washington. Look at Eric Gustafsson. He's owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing top pairing, top power play unit. He has 3 points his last 7 games, so cooled a little bit. Before that, he put up 8 points over the previous 5. Obviously, he's cooled off a little bit of late. Still close to that half point per game mark there. And he gets top pairing, top power play unit. Carlson is out for a while. Should be just a little blip on the radar, and you should get some pretty solid value out of adding him there. Next one is Brett Pesce over in Carolina, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues. Playing second pairing, second power play unit there. And he's put up 10 points his last 11 games. And in those 11 games, he's also +6, has 25 shots on goal, also has 16 blocks in those 11 games. He's been really good the last few weeks. He gets some power play time there. Somebody has to get some points besides just Burns there. And could be a fairly decent depth piece for you. Next one over in Winnipeg is Neil Pionk. He's owned in 53% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing second pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 5 points his last 8 games. And in those 8 games, he's +4, has 16 shots on goal, has 18 hits and 10 blocks. His offense is down from last year, but he is still contributing in other categories. So in a Cats league with his past offensive upside there, could be an okay depth piece for you moving forward. Another one in Winnipeg is Dylan DeMello, owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues, playing that top pairing there. And he has 4 points his last 5 games, and in those 5 games also thrown 12 hits. He definitely gets his hits and blocks. His offense is hit or miss. There's no way to kind of sugarcoat it there. But he has been getting some recently. So could be a depth option in a Cats league for you. Going back to Carolina, look at Brady Skjei possibly. He's owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues, playing second pairing there, and he has 5 points his last 6 games. And in those 6 games, he's a +4, also 15 shots on goal. Gets a fair amount of shots there. He has decent offense. He can be a little bit streaky, but in your deeper leagues, he could definitely be a pretty good depth piece. Over in Detroit, look at Jake Wallman. Owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing right now. He has 4 points his last 5 games. And in those 5 games, he's also +5, 15 shots on goal, 8 hits, and 9 blocks. He's been fairly decent in most categories there. The offense has seen an uptick there with him being up on the top pairing. So with that, in a deeper Cats league, definitely could be a depth piece. In a standard league, he might be more of a streaming option right now anyways. Over in Nashville, look at McTavish C. He's owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues. He plays second pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 5 points his last 8 games. And in those 8 games, he has 13 shots on goal and 8 blocks in there. So he's been okay, not great in any Cats. He's still steady Eddie kind of a thing. So in a deeper Cats league, that's where you're probably going to get some value by adding him as a depth piece. Over in New Jersey, look at Damon Severson. He's owned in 16% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing second pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 7 points his last 7 games. And in those 7 games, he's also been +5 and had 7 blocks on there. He's been a lot better of late. He's been bumped up to the second pairing. He's always been on the second power play pretty much all year. But getting a little uptick in ice time, his production's starting to come up a bit. So in your deeper leagues especially, that's where you're going to find some value in them. Over in Seattle, look at Adam Larson, owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing there. And he has 9 points the last 12 games. In those 12 games, he's +18. That's insane plus-minus over that long of a stretch. 24 shots on goal, 41 hits, and 25 blocks in those 12 games as well. He's basically doing it all right now. He'll be a great depth piece if he is available in a Cats league for you. So definitely grab him if he is available. He's been that good for a while. Last one is Adam Boquist over in Columbus there. Owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues. Playing third pairing, but up on the top power play there. He has 4 points his last 5 games, and also has 10 shots on goal in those 5 games. He's taken over the top PP since coming back from injury. With Werenski out, he's definitely going to get some points and opportunity there. So especially in deeper leagues, maybe even standard leagues, he could be an okay depth piece moving forward. Now we'll move along to some forwards to take a peek at. First one's Matty Beniers over in Seattle there. Listed as a center, owned in 52% of Yahoo leagues. Playing top line, top power play unit there. And he has 11 points over his last 8 games, so pretty hot. +8 over those 8 games. 20 shots on goal and 7 blocks there. As I mentioned, he's been really hot. And he should be a really great ad going forward for you. Pretty much in most formats there. Next one is Lucas Raymond over in Detroit, listed as a right winger, owned in 44% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit, and he's put up 12 points his last 10 games. In those 10 games, he's been a +5. 5 of those points being on the power play, so definitely been ramping it up there. And 7 blocks. He's been getting better as the year goes on. Definitely didn't start out the way most fantasy owners expected, with the way he had a really good rookie season last year, but he's been ramping it up. And with that trajectory continues, should be a very solid ad for you. Next one over in Seattle's Yanni Gourde, listed as a center, owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the third line there in Seattle, and he has 10 points over his last 9 games. In those 9 games, he's a +10, has 17 shots on goal, thrown 12 hits, and had 8 blocks in there. So he's hot right now. He does only get third line minutes, but he's been producing, contributing in other cats. So in a cats league, he could provide depth, or even your deeper scoring leagues, just with the third line minutes, I'd use him more as a streaming option in a standard league. But if you kind of dig deep in your leagues, could definitely provide some value for you. Over in St. Louis, look at Brandon Saad, listed as a left winger, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line, second power play unit there, and he has 7 points his last 8 games, and in those 8 games, fired a lot of pucks on net, 20 shots on goal there. He's streaky, but he is getting more ice time with all the injuries up front in St. Louis, so he should, especially in deeper leagues, provide value over the next few weeks for you until some of their forwards start getting healthy again. Over in Philly, look at Scott Lawton, listed as center left winger, owned in 19% of Yahoo leagues, playing third line, second power play unit there, and he has 12 points over his last 10 games. In those 10 games, he's a +9, has 4 power play points there, 19 shots on goal, 18 hits, and 7 blocks. It's been pretty good for a while, and he's contributing in all cats. So in most formats, you'll definitely get some value by adding him there. Over in Tampa, look at Brandon Hagel, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 59% of Yahoo leagues, plays top line, top power play unit there, and he currently has 6 points in a 4-game point streak with 8 shots on goal and 3 blocks. Not just this point streak, he's been pretty solid all year. So if he is available in your leagues, definitely look to add him, because you'll definitely be happy by doing so. Next one is Robert Thomas over in St. Louis there, listed as a center, owned in 58% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit there. And he has 8 points the last 9 games, so basically a point per game. 17 shots on goal, starting to shoot a little bit more. He's more of a pass first kind of guy. Has 5 blocks in there. But basically he's a point per game player, so you know what you're going to get out of him, especially in scoring leagues. Should really be a nice depth piece. Going back to Seattle, look at Jordan Eberle, listed as a right winger, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit there, and he has 8 points his last 7 games, and in those 7 games he's a +6. So he is streaky, but overall his numbers are pretty okay. So he should be decent depth at, especially in your deeper leagues there. Over in Buffalo, look at Dylan Cousins, listed as a center, owned in 56% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line, top power play unit there. He has 9 points his last 10 games, so basically point per game. Has 4 power play points in those 10 games, 28 shots on goal, and 11 hits. He's been fairly consistent for a while, and with that, you know what you're going to get with him, and you should add him, and you should be pretty happy by doing so. Over in Seattle, look at Andrei Burakovsky, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 45% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing top line, top power play unit there, and he has 8 points over his last 7 games, and in those 7 games, he's also a +6. He's been fairly solid offensive numbers throughout the year. He started out really hot, got a little bit cold there. He's ramping it back up, and going forward, the way Seattle is scoring a lot more this year, he should be fairly solid for you going forward. Over in Nashville, look at Huso Parssinen, listed as a center, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit there. He currently has 9 points in a 7-game point streak. And in those 7 games, he's also +4, 13 shots on goal, and 9 hits. The kid's been good since getting called up, and depending how deep your league is, he could be a nice steal for you. Only 3% owned. Another one in Seattle is Eli Tolvanen there. Listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the third line, second power play unit there. He has 7 points his last 9 games. And in those 9 games, he's +7, has 19 shots on goal, 19 hits, and 9 blocks. He's been really good in Seattle. I think Nashville's kind of kicking themselves for putting him on waivers there, losing him for nothing. But we don't care about waivers. We just care about production in fantasy there. And he should be a really nice ad, especially in deep leagues there. Over in Anaheim, look at Mason McTavish there, listed as center left winger, owned in 25% of Yahoo leagues. Playing top line, top power play unit there. He has 7 points his last 6 games. And in those 6 games, 2 of those points are on the power play, has 18 shots on goal and 6 blocks. He's a little off and on with his offense, but he's a young kid with a ton of talent. He's up on that top line in Anaheim. He's been on the top power play unit for nice chunk of change now here. So in deeper leagues, he will be a really nice depth piece for you. Over in Philly, look at Joel Farabee, listed as center left winger, owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues. He plays second line, second power play unit there, and he has 10 points his last 12 games, and in those 12 games has 20 shots on goal, 8 hits, and 6 blocks. He's been fairly consistent for the last little bit here, and honestly, he'll provide some fairly decent depth value, especially in your deeper leagues there. Over in St. Louis, look at Brady Skjei. He's listed as center left winger, owned in 61% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing second line, top power play unit there. He's put up 6 points his last 8 games, so a little under a point per game, but still not too bad. 2 of those points being on the power play, has 20 hits and 9 blocks in those games as well. He'll be honestly he produces in most cats. He'll be decent depth, especially in a cats league there. Over in Arizona, look at Barrett Hayton. He's listed as a center, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing on the top line. I've seen some websites say top line, some third line. So either way, he's playing in the top 9, so his ice time might vary a little bit, but top line on daily faceoff there as of yesterday when I was checking this out, and top power play unit. He has 9 points his last 10 games, so really nice production over that stretch. 25 shots on goal, 12 hits, and 7 blocks. As I mentioned, he's been playing well on that top line. If he stays there, he'll be a really nice ad, especially in your deeper leagues. He still contributes in other cats, so he could work in a cats league or a really deep scoring league. Over in San Jose, look at Alexander Barabanov, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. He plays on the second line and top power play unit in San Jose there. He has 6 points his last 8 games, and in those 8 games, also 13 shots on goal. He's had an okay season. He's been fairly decent overall offensively, so in your deep scoring leagues, that's where you're going to want to add him as a depth piece. Over in Minnesota, look at Sam Steele. He's listed as center left winger, owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. He's up on the top line, second power play unit there, and he has 9 points over his last 9 games, and also in those 9 games, he's a +7 there. He's been getting points playing with Zuccarello and Kaprizov there, so especially in a scoring league, he'll be a nice streamer if it's a standard league. If it's a deeper scoring league where you draft a few more players, definitely be a fairly solid ad in a deeper scoring league as well. Over in Arizona, look at Nick Schmaltz, listed as center right winger, owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing top line, top power play unit there, and he has 8 points over his last 11 games with 22 shots on goal. His offense is fairly consistent, and with that, he'll be a good scoring league depth option for you. Over in Philly, look at Kevin Hayes. He's listed as a center, owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues. Playing third line, he's up on the top power play unit. He has 7 points his last 7 games, and in those 7 games, he's also a +5, has 22 shots on goal, so kind of adds a little bit of extra value there. Overall, it's been a fairly good season for him. He's had a couple down stretches, but overall, it's been fairly solid, and he should be a fairly good depth option in scoring leagues. Over in Seattle, look at Daniel Sprong, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues. Playing fourth line up on the top power play unit there, and he has 10 points over his last 12 games with 30 shots on goal. He'll be a really great add in deep leagues for sure. He does get fourth line minutes, so that kind of scares me off for a standard league, but he is up on the top power play unit, so it'd be more of a streaming option in a standard league there. But either way, he is producing. He's been fairly consistent for a while and should be a decent depth piece, especially in those scoring formats. Over in LA, look at Gabriel Velarde, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues, playing third line, top power play unit there, and he has 11 points over his last 11 games. 3 of those points have been on the power play, has 20 shots on goal and 9 blocks on there. He's been pretty consistent recently, and honestly, he'll be a fairly good depth piece for you going forward. Over in Columbus, possibly look at Kirill Marchenko, listed as a right winger, only owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, listed on the fourth line, second power play unit there. He has 6 goals in his last 10 games, so if goals are weighted a little bit heavy in your league, that's where it's going to add some extra value for you. Also 19 shots on goal in those 10 games, 11 hits and 8 blocks. His ice time is limited, because he's only getting fourth line minutes there. But for a real deep scoring league, that's where you're going to definitely get some value out of him. Last one's over in the Rangers. Look at Philip Chittle. He's listed as center right winger, owned in 9% of Yahoo leagues, playing third line, second power play unit there. And he has 7 points his last 7 games. 3 of those points being on the power play. Bit more power play production of late. 20 shots on goal and 5 blocks in those 7 games. He's been good the last couple of weeks there and can be a decent depth piece, especially in your deeper leagues. Don't forget to check out www.247clash.com. If you do decide to sign up, remember to use referral code LTC. Help support our podcast. Hopefully you win some cash there. If you watch this episode via YouTube, remember to hit like, hit subscribe. Remember that notification bell so you can check out some of our future episodes there. If you're listening via podcast, remember to hit that heart, hit follow, hit subscribe, depending what platform you're listening to it on there. And we'll talk to you soon, and good luck there, fantasy owners.